Okay, welcome everyone.
Welcome.
Welcome. Love seeing this crowd coming down for an amazing 1 hour all about our fun with guardianship at Catholic Charities. My name is Jill Valentic. I'm the Executive Director for Catholic Charities. I've been with Catholic Charities since 2005. And just a little bit of my background. I did start off with the agency as the guardianship supervisor and patient supervisor. So I'm happy to be here today to be a part of this important discussion about who we are and what our program's all about. I'll pass on to our next presenter.
I'm Kristin, Cellini. I'm the program manager for our Guardianship Program at Catholic Charities. I've probably spoken to most of you via phone at some point. So this is the face. So I've put some faces together with the names and the voices. And I've been with the agency and with the program for almost 2 years.
It feels like 10.
Yeah, but it's
You just feel like it's like there's so much, between guardianship cases and everything that goes on, it feels like a lifetime when you're serving people in need. We also like to do a shout out to St. Joseph House Anxious Church for giving us this opportunity of space. Father John is a rock star. And before we get into I'll just say the bits and pieces about guardianship. We're part of Catholic Charities of Ashtabula County as part of the fleet of Diocese of Youngstown. And as you can see, there's a map there. We're part of one of the 6 counties in our diocese that provides services to those in need. So Ashtabula County, we're part of Ashtabula County. We serve all of those in need in Ashtabula County. There's also the regional agency and the Portage and Stark agencies that serve the lower south tier of our diocese. Just in case you're wondering where we're located at the First Commonwealth Bank in Ashtabula City. We're on the 3rd floor, and you can come in, you can walk in, you can email us, you can fill out an application online. There's many different ways to connect with us, but that's where we're located. And I like to just always reiterate that we serve all people in need in Ashtabula County. So, and we are a nonprofit, and we have a board of directors that is made up of people from Ashtabula County that represent our community. So what our hope is for you today is to, and I have my PowerPoint being so fancy, to feel informed, to feel close to our mission while we're serving in Ashtabula County, and to feel connected with Catholic Charities of Ashtabula County, to feel connected with us.
our mission statement: to provide service to people in need, to advocate for justice and social structures, and to call the entire church and other people of goodwill to do the same.
Okay, first test. What does Catholic mean in Latin or Greek? Thank you, Peter. Universal. That means all are welcome. We serve all people in need. So anybody can walk through our doors, and we're going to be there to help them through their situation, navigate them, whether it's within our services that we have at our agency, or maybe we're referring out to someone, to another agency, or someone that we know that has an expertise. So we're all about collaboration, and obviously we're going to be there to help all people in need. So as we dive into our presentation, I just want to kind of share a little bit about the topic. It's a big topic. Guardianship is huge. Like, you could have a course on this. So today, I just want to kind of put out there that it covers our guardianship program, Catholic Charities of Ashtabula County, our guardianship program, and the general guidelines related to the program. So we may have client examples, however, due to protecting their confidentiality, we want to make sure that that is known, that, you know, we want to make sure we're talking on a confidential level. We're not disclosing people that we might know in the community. That's really important. And also, we are not attorneys. Guardianship has also attorneys involved. So if there's a need for legal advice, we cannot provide that. We might be able to guide you, show you places of information, but I can't give you legal information. Even though we have experience, we've seen things, we've been experienced, we've talked to lots of attorneys, we've been in many court hearings, but we don't practice law. Okay.
We'd like to ask you why you're here today, and what do you want to know about Catholic Charities Guardianship Program?
So when you come out to a presentation, I know you guys have lots of questions. So what's some of the things that you're hoping you'll hear about today? Yes.
How many people in our county are guardians in the program?
Right, we can
Okay.
share about that.
Yep, we'll touch on that.
Okay. Yes. Very good. That's actually going to be a topic.
Yep.
Okay.
You're talking about that too.
I didn't pay her.
Darcy.
Know how to tell somebody who needs you.
Okay.
Okay. Gotcha. So you're saying when you're talking to somebody who may need guardianship and you're reaching that conversation with them, okay.
I think we're going to
like
get a
that.
little bit of that. Yep.
All right, well, we will tell you.
Ron?
I pulled into the parking lot today, I got a call from an attorney wanting me to do an evaluation on someone for guardianship. A wonderful place to be. But just to be refreshed on steps to take and in what order to do them, who can do what would be great.
And we are going to touch base on that. And a lot of it, just so you know, we're probably going to say it again, there are going to be some questions that maybe they need to be discussed on the side, or maybe for a meeting on the side with our agency or with Kristin. So we know that there's a lot of complex situations out there, complex, you know, we won't say clients, but just situations that we're like, wow, this is happening. You know, how do we
Mm-hmm.
how do you work through this? And sometimes you have to have a set aside conversation about that.
So what we are going to talk about today, some things to expect. We're going to talk a little bit about the history of the guardianship program itself, our funding sources, who we collaborate with in the community. I think many of you are here today. What exactly is guardianship? Our staff and how our agency serves the county. The limitations of our program. We're going to learn about the program itself and how to refer to our program. We'll go through that in detail for you. So that will be very clear when you go today. Guardianship responsibilities and volunteer guardianship. We have a volunteer guardianship piece to our program, so we're going to discuss that a little bit at the end.
This is our college portion of what is guardianship. And
All right, so I'm going to read this pretty much verbatim, only because it's legalese and it's important. Because this is the cornerstone to what we're talking about. So, guardianship it's a relationship created by the state in which probate gives a person, the guardian, a duty to make personal decisions for another person. They are called the ward. You'll hear us discuss, when we're discussing things today, we will refer to them as a ward. A guardian is appointed when a judge determines that an adult lacks a capacity to make decisions regarding his or her own life. For a vulnerable older person, guardianship can be a valuable tool in securing his or her physical safety. Probate court appoints a legal guardian after a thorough investigation and a hearing to make decisions on the person's behalf. The court will have found the person, like I said, referred to as the ward, and incapable of managing his or her own affairs. This is the most restrictive. So we like to make sure that when we're doing this, their rights are being taken away. So we need to make sure that we're very diligent in how we proceed with these guardianships. And that does follow you.
Any questions on the definition of what guardianship is? This is very guardianship light.
Yeah.
Yes.
What would be the difference between guardianship and a power of attorney?
Wonderful question. So a power of attorney, okay, and I don't have this on the slide, but guardianship is a probated process where when you hear about power of attorney, medical power of attorney, it's actually a public document that you can create yourself. I always recommend seeing an attorney for any kind of document of this level. So again, it's going back to seeing an attorney, but it is a document that people pull up online. I'm not going to say it's a license to steal because I'm not on that soapbox right now, but the difference is that you have the probate court law with guardianship, where maybe with the power of attorney, it's a little bit more looser in guidelines. But I always recommend on both ends that attorneys are involved with both processes. So you might have heard of power of attorney, medical durable power of attorney. All that should be also considered with all advanced directives, which we're not having a presentation on advanced directives, but that's a wonderful question. It probably needs to be a presentation in the future.
Can I add
So,
something to that?
yes.
So guardianship actually trumps power of attorney.
Yes.
Thank
It
you,
makes
good
the
point.
Power of
Yes.
Yep.
attorney just go away.
So if somebody does have a power of attorney and a guardianship is established, then that guardian is now the decision maker.
Thank you. So we'll get into
We'll get into that.
Okay.
I'm
We
loving
will get
that.
into that.
So the question was, is once we become guardian, or our program becomes guardian to a ward, we're in charge of all decisions. We're going to talk about that. Yes, Peter.
Power of attorney doesn't really take away the person's rights, right?
So power of attorney is a document that is that's a legal, it's somewhat of a legal document. A lot of people do it on their own. It's recommended that you do it through an attorney so you could talk about what that power of attorney speaks to. So I can't say, it's very person-centered. So that's a good question. To say what it can or cannot do is an individual situation, but again, it's always making sure you consult with an attorney on documents of that level. Okay, so the Catholic Charities Guardianship Program. So I'm going to give you a little history. Go down memory lane. I started with the program in 2005, and I was still in the early stages, but not really. I started seeing the building of the program through our county leadership. It started in 1992 when the late executive director, Patrick Sorahan of Catholic Charities, started taking on individuals that he felt were very vulnerable in our community. He was applying to become their guardian. This is a lay person, and he felt there's people in nursing homes, they need a voice. He ended up becoming their guardian, and funny enough, the late Judge Charles Haig said, "Who is this Patrick Sorahan? I want to meet this man because this is different. He's not related to these individuals." And he met him, and then they started talking. And this history is really true. He basically said, you know what, we got to do something about it. And then all of a sudden, Patrick passed away. And people from the community said, we cannot let this sit and go away. So that's where, at the time, the Senior Care Network was very involved with the evolution of helping out those who are most vulnerable over 60 in our community. And it was a calling. It called and brought the community together. This was in Ashtabula County. And it wasn't a small group. And I know we have someone here that was part of it. And I'll have her introduce herself in a second. But my point is it takes a person to make change. And there was something going on. So that's where they developed the Patrick Sorahan Ashtabula County Volunteer Guardianship Program. It was partnered with Catholic Charities and the probate court through the Honorable Judge Charles Haig, and also through the I'm just going to say the support of the Senior Care Network. In fact, I was going to say, Mary Peppery, I think you were part of that movement. So, thank you. So when they were developing the program, they said, how are we going to do it? They actually went and met with a Lutheran church out in Cleveland that had an actual volunteer guardianship program, and that was the model. And that model was carried over into Ashtabula County. And along with that model, they started the guardianship program at Catholic Charities, serving those over 60 with one part-time person and one volunteer and with one ward of the court. And today, I could say that we have grown to 4 full-time caseworkers, right now 6 volunteer guardians, and we currently serve on average 100 individuals in Ashtabula County on an annual basis. And when we talk about serving, we may not become the guardian to everybody. We may be starting out with actually the best way of saying is the assessment of a person, and we find out that there's more to this person, and maybe guardianship is not the fit, but somehow we were pulled in because you got to have that conversation. You have to have, is guardianship an option? Is payship an option? Does this person need better housing, a better situation, better people in their lives? So it's not just serving on a guardianship level. We're also working on meeting people that are in need that are referred to our program, and it goes from there. So how do you take a program from 1994 to the present and build it to over 100 wards on an annual basis? Well, one is funding, and funding has been an evolution for this program. We're very, very grateful for the senior levy that helped us. It was the seed that helped our program start, serving the 60 and older. United Way, our diocese, Department of Job and Family Services, and the Mental Health Board. The Mental Health Board was a new funder that was helping us serve a small portion of our clientele that are under 60 and may have a severe persistent mental illness. So that's why that's why we have more caseworkers.
What is the role of the guardian at Catholic Charities? Before I go into that, I would actually like to introduce our guardians that do all of this work for us. We have Robin and Jennifer Tellisman, Robin Fowler, and Peter Scardino. They're my rock stars. Seriously.
And Kristin is also a guardian.
I am. Yep. All right. So, what is our role? We are a voice for our wards at all times. So that goes into your question about do we make every single decision for them? So we like to do more a person-centered approach. We like to have them make as many decisions as they can with our assistance. Okay. It's just better for their dignity. We try to keep a softer approach with our wards. We are the decision makers. We make medical decisions. We make housing decisions. Those are the big ones. And we make decisions on care. We are an advocate and a peacemaker. So what I want to say about this is this has been a situation several times. We've had an individual who was very separated from their family. There were a lot of issues, usually due to mental illness. They get a guardian, things kind of improve for them a little bit, they stabilize, and we've been able to reunite them with families in a really beautiful way, actually. And that's happened numerous times. Also, if they're in a nursing facility, I feel like sometimes we're the buffer between, you know, the facility and an individual who may be a little bit difficult at times. Attends plan of care meetings at the nursing facilities. Anyone who have a facility, we attend those plan of care meetings. We encourage our wards to also attend. We do like them to have a say as well. We're not always the good guy, so this is the tricky part a lot. So the first thing that we like to do when we get a new ward is establish trust. So that trust has to be there or it's going to be a battle, okay? So we establish trust, but here's the part. When you have to tell them that they have to do something that they don't want to do and still trying to keep that trust, okay? So it's a, yeah, it's kind of a rough road sometimes, but we have to make decisions in their best. We're the eyes and ears spot checker. Facilities, you know, we're going in, we're seeing, you know, are they bathed? Are they, you know, having a lot of falls? If they're in the community, you know, what's their house look like? Do they have groceries? All of that. We approve care and care location. So we approve what facility, if they're a nursing facility, we make that decision. We make the decision as to what kind of care comes into a home if they're in the community. And we also make decisions if it's in the DD community, then we can make decisions about the providers. Uphold confidentiality. I think pretty much everyone in this room is very familiar with confidentiality, and I don't have to go into that. We are their support system, and 9 times out of 10, the only one. So we are the only person who's going to give them a birthday card. Okay? We're the only person who's going to wish them happy birthday. So we are usually their one solid support in their life, somebody that they can rely on. We uphold NGA, National Guardianship Association. We have to uphold all of their ethical principles. And they align pretty well with our agency anyway, so it's, you know. We represent the Ashtabula County Probate Court. The probate judge is the superior guardian. So if there's something going on with our case, okay, we have to notify the court. If you're having some kind of an issue with a ward, you'll want to notify the court. You have to notify them if they change residence, if they move. Because they are the superior guardian and they need to be informed at all times. Most of the time that can be done in writing. Sometimes we do have to have it. Training. We all have to do 6-hour training when you first become a guardian. There's an online 6-hour training. We'll get into that a little bit more later. And then after that, you need 3 hours of training annually. So all of us obviously have to keep up the certifications every year.
When you become nationally certified, which is a requirement of our executive director, that each one of us become nationally certified. Through that process, there's actually 20 hours every 2 years of education that we have to go through. I'd also like to say that we are protecting the individual's rights. Yes, their rights have been restricted, their rights have been taken away, but we are to protect their rights.
And the other thing is in order to become a nationally an NGA or a certified guardian, you have to have 2 years of guardianship experience before you can apply to take that test. So,
So Jennifer and I will be studying together.
so this is just a snapshot, but just to let you know, I think we see this in all of our positions. We're always trying to do exactly what we're all talking about here. So everybody in this room is currently doing that in their own positions, in their own life. That's what we do. With guardianship, we have to do this, no doubt. Okay, and we work really hard to make sure that this information here that you're hearing is just part of the fabric of what we do every day. Yes.
Question. If you find a family member, through Catholic Charities, they find a family member who wants to be guardian, do they go through the training also?
So did we
We'll
pay
get-
you for this?
we'll get to that.
That's a good question.
We'll get to that, Mom.
We're gonna get to that. So I'm gonna have Kristin start, but before you start on this, I just wanted to kind of like reiterate a little bit about how our program kind of got lost in the fray during COVID. And what I mean by that is that we were out and about a lot in every location with our wards. And when COVID hit, our volunteer guardians, our program, and our wards were put in a position of not having 100% care. I mean, everybody who was working with every individual, I want to thank everyone in this room for taking care. Anybody has any involvement with the people that we serve, thank you, because it was not an easy time. And we were all trying to make sure that we were all working together to have the best care possible. And but going forward, we felt that our program mission kind of got lost in the fray because we couldn't go out as much as we used to. And that was going to all the nursing homes or having presentations or having volunteer guardianship orientations. So that's why we're doing this today, and to really sharpen or at least remind everybody about what our program mission is all about.
So our mission, dignity, respect, and compassionate care. All of our guardians do this every single day with wonderful grace. There's a reason that we do this. We treat our wards with dignity and respect at all times. And we do remain compassionate with them, even in tough situations. So we recruit volunteers, and of course we hire our full-time guardians, training and then monitoring the staff and volunteers who serve as guardians. Most of our guardian of persons are usually, frail, elderly, little to no financial means, and no family or other support system that they can call upon to be guardian. We collaborate with the Ashtabula County Probate Court, the Honorable Judge Camplease and Magistrate Richard Dana. They are the superior guardians, so we work very closely with them.
And to add how much of a support they are to our program, they know that there's a lot of big discussions about guardianship in general. So we have our program, of course, but then we're talking about on a greater level when we're looking at a growing aging population. We have people who might need more information on guardianship. Those are the other discussions to have at another time, maybe another seminar, but they're very involved with guardianship in Ashtabula County. You couldn't ask for two judicial individuals to be so involved and to have conversations on a regular basis about people in need, people who are most vulnerable. Some of the roadblocks that we see, because honestly, we like to say, hey, we could be guardian to everybody, but we know that that's not always the answer. So they're always in discernment on a court level. They work closely with the court investigator who we have here today, we're always constant, where they're talking about what's in the best interest of a person. So and believe me, they take it real seriously.
They're huge support for us. Our guardianship, we have an advisory board. We meet quarterly. These are our board members, and we have the wonderful Mary Pepper
Like I say,
And-
who, we have several people from
Mhm.
our advisory, if you can. we have
Amy.
three. Amy,
Piotrowski is the court investigator, and Ron Sigmund from Signature. Is that everybody? How are we called to serve in the community? You name it. Ashtabula County Probate Court will call on us. There could be a guardian passed away, and now there's this ward out there that doesn't have a guardian anymore, so they may call on us to do what's called a successor guardianship. Attorneys will call on us when they see maybe some issues with the client going on. Ashtabula County Mental Health Board. We have one of Peter is he does full-time severe and persistently mentally ill. His whole caseload is mental health. We have them scattered in our caseloads. So yes, we do work very closely with them. Mental health agencies, it's all the time. We coordinate with them probably daily regarding, and they will also obviously refer frequently. Nursing homes and nursing facilities, we work very, very closely with them. We have a great relationship, I think, with the facilities that we work closely with. God bless y'all, and thank you for doing what you do. And they will refer too when they see somebody in need in their facility. Adult Protective Services, abuse, neglect, exploitation. Exploitation. It is crazy right now. So they will refer, when they come across those situations, possibly. Community organizations.
the phone calls that
Trying
we
to think.
receive are like the phone calls you receive. Everyone's asking the question, how can we help this person? And guardianship isn't always the solution, but sometimes we're brought to the table because of resources that we know, or maybe it has to be kept on the radar because maybe guardianship long-term might be the reason why we might be involved. There's never a fluid situation when someone's in crisis. Unfortunately, we do see neglect a lot. And when you have to unpeel neglect, it's really making sure the person's health is in good standing. And sometimes when their health and their finances are being taken care of, the guardianship piece might not even be necessary. It's all about giving that person a little bit more attention, and there's services out there to help wrap around their needs. And it takes time. It's not an overnight approach. I think many of you guys might be aware people you've worked with where they're in and out of hospitals, in and out of nursing homes, in and out of the doctor's office, family issues, you name it, and sometimes it just gets real complex. And maybe guardianship might be involved, or maybe not, but maybe our wisdom and our experiences are brought to the table to maybe help build a real special plan for that individual in need. So, and sometimes it's about having a discussion about an important situation where maybe we're working with the mental health board because there's someone in the community that has a lot going on. So there's many different ways that we're involved. But we're called just like you guys are. We see situations and we need to call on our colleagues to figure out, well, what's the best way to help this person? And also bring that person involved as well, as much as we can, because they have the right to self-determination. They also have the right to know why people are involved in their situation. I wouldn't want someone talking about me and no one brings me to the table. So I can tell you from our personal professional experiences that we would prefer that the person in need is with us, or when there's meetings about their care.
So we'll discuss what is not an appropriate referral for Catholic Charities Program. If they are out of county, they do not qualify for our program. If they are at a facility out of county, but they're from here, they need to be back in the county. What they can do is whatever facility they're in can kind of coordinate with us so that when they come back, we can go ahead and start the process, but we cannot do it if they're out of county.
Sometimes if someone's in a hospital outside, they might not be transferred into Ashtabula.
Yeah, they may not come back here anyway.
And as far as with probate, we have to stay within the jurisdiction of Ashtabula County. It's not because we don't want to serve a person that's outside of the county from Ashtabula County. They just, in order to serve as a guardian and apply, we have to have that person in our county.
We serve 18 and over. So current guardian in place, if there's a current guardian in place, we cannot take the referral. That guardianship would have to be terminated by a probate court in order for another guardianship to occur. Can't be two guardianships for one person, even if they're in different counties. Person with financial means, if they have an estate, some kind of financial means where they can hire an attorney or a family member can hire an attorney for them to go through this process, that's always preferred. We do not take guardianships to pink slip. We can't pink slip. A guardian does not legally have the power to pink slip in Ashtabula.
And we are not a mental health agency, and we're not certified
We're
to
not a
pink slip
crisis.
people. So that question has come up, can't you pink slip a person? I'm like, we do not do that at Catholic Charities. That is, there's special people who do that, who are trained, and yes. Ron, could you mention what a pink slip is?
Yes,
Ron,
since you're here.
he's pulling out one.
Another word for payslip is an involuntary middle form. It looks like this. And
The official pink slip.
it says to the chief clinical officer of, and so that would be the hospital that we are sending them to. Actually, on behalf of the board, we keep somebody here custody on behalf of our mental health board. And then there are 4 criteria. Basically, the first one is a person is suicidal, they have a plan or intent. Secondly, they're homicidal with a plan and intent. Thirdly, they're grossly unable to care for themselves. And the 4th criteria would be that at the discretion of the clinician that is executing the payslip, they would benefit from further evaluation. That seems like catch-22, but actually it is not. Okay? To look into that further, what it implies is that we know the individual. We have tried multiple times courses of treatment to maintain their stability and quality of life, and they have failed, whether it was because of choices to not take their medications or whatever, and that the clinician is seeing that if this progresses, they are at a strong likelihood of compensating more severely or even dying. And so we're going to forcibly put them into a place where a physician can see them and do further evaluation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for
That
that
was great.
explanation.
We have that on, that's good.
Okay. If there's least restrictive services that have not been used yet, that would not be an appropriate referral. If they have a medical power of attorney, it's not appropriate typically. Not as an alternative to a family or friend that is capable of serving as a guardian. People will say this is going to go under. This is going to kind of go with another one. I don't have the money to file for the guardianship, so we want Catholic Charities to take guardianship of my brother. I mean, we can try to help you find some resources, but that's not appropriate. To avoid cost of guardianship, so that took care of that one. Services in place, and if they're living in a protective environment, I mean, it's sometimes it's just not appropriate based on certain situations. Unable to provide legal advice and probate application. We cannot assist people in filling out a probate application. We are not attorneys, and we cannot provide any legal advice.
Now, we have been involved with a little bit of everything here, but it's usually because there's abuse, neglect, real special cases, the court is involved, they're referring us, adult protective services, unique situations where maybe we might be involved with family, we might be involved with special circumstances. But really what it comes down to is we're assessing each person on an individual basis. So we're kind of giving you examples of if someone doesn't need guardianship and they haven't tried other services, or we see opportunities that need to be looked into, like sometimes representative payship, sometimes is just really the solution to someone's situation, or it could be a better living situation. So it all depends, but generally we're going to be looking at all other alternatives before a guardianship application to our program is considered. And it's good because we're talking about someone's rights. Yes.
I had a question on the alternate family.
So the alternate, you're talking about like if they have family members.
If they have family, but they're not really appropriate.
So, and I think that's where the assessment comes in, because we have to make sure that we're not judging families. Sometimes it's education. We've seen some situations where family is not appropriate, but there still can be their family. It all depends on the scenario. A lot of times, the applications that come to us, it's involving multiple agencies or people supports, so we can kind of get an idea of like how this really works with our agency and that potential award at the court.
And part of the guardianship application is there is a form next of kin. So you need to list all living family. They are contacted by probate, and they are offered to take guardianship. If it's somebody who we personally don't think is appropriate, and they say, I want to take guardianship, that is for probate to decide. So, yes.
If a potential ward is a resident of Ashtabula County, say their family member lives in the state but outside of the county, say Lake County, does that disqualify them from being guardian if the guardian would live outside of Ashtabula?
Outside of state.
So a lot of times we would also say they need to seek an attorney in Ashtabula County to understand the Ashtabula County, the jurisdiction on how they would say to apply to. So that would be an attorney question. But there have been people that have applied. They're from Lake County, let's say Geauga County. They have a loved one that's in Ashtabula County, and they apply to become their guardian. But of course, through an attorney that can help them through the probate court process.
Yeah. So, being a guardian in the state of Ohio, the ward has to live. You can't be a guardian to someone outside. So if their family members happen to live in Illinois, they're probably not going to be granted guardianship. Now, probate court has, on occasion, we have looked at, we're right here at the Pennsylvania line. So if we have a family member that is in Pennsylvania, close enough for a drive, we will consider that. But for the most part, you have to live in the state of the person you're applying to be guardian.
I've been in special circumstances where family was in another state, and the probate court of that particular county spoke to Ashtabula County. Their attorneys spoke, they did affidavits, and then they eventually became guardian and actually brought the ward to another state. But that's not an overnight process. But it's a big investigation, and a lot of attorneys, a lot of information, a lot of data to say it's inappropriate. But it's complex. It's not easy, but it can happen.
We serve primarily 60 and over, indigent, mentally and developmentally disabled, victims of exploitation, and the most vulnerable. Most of our wards lack appropriate family and friends or support systems. We serve residents of Ashtabula County. We serve as guardianship of person, There's also other types of guardianships. There's temporary guardianship where the probate may grant a guardianship for like 90 days, say. It would be for like a certain period of time. It would not be indefinitely. Emergency guardianships are very rare, and we're not going to get into the details of that, but there is an emergency guardianship procedure. And they're guardian of a state. We do not take guardianships of estates. We will, if we take on a guardianship, that person does have to have a payee. We do not touch their money as guardian of person, like at all. So they'll have to have a representative payee who will manage their money for them if they don't have an estate. Because if we're a guardianship of person and they're still controlling their money, I mean, that's a recipe for, a lot of issues.
Conflict of interest.
Yeah. So.
We have to watch our time here, but I
This-
do want to
this
run
is-
through this real
Yes.
quick.
Our process. So if you have a referral, you would meet with me, typically by phone. Typically people will call and say, hey, I have this situation. We have our own guardianship referral form, and that always has to be filled out completely. There is a lot of information that you will have to provide. And a statement of expert evaluation by a physician or a licensed psychologist. The original needs to be submitted with the referral form. That will indicate to us that yes, somebody has deemed this person unable to make their own decisions. In-person visitation, so we will go out, visit the individual, assess the situation, see if it's an appropriate referral for us. Prioritize for guardianship. I'm sorry, meeting with referring party, and then verifying next of kin. So we will have to do some digging if that information is not given to us. Try to find all living next of kin and contact them. If eligible, they will be placed on a waiting list, and then the availability of the staff or volunteer guardians that we can, of course, take another. Prioritize for guardianship probate court application to match with a volunteer and attorney to file the guardianship. So once we have, we've approved the guardianship, the person comes up on the waiting list, then we have to coordinate with one of our volunteer attorneys. We do have volunteer attorneys who help us file guardianship applications in Ashtabula County, and we are very thankful for them. So we will notify them. We will go ahead with the application process. Amy will go ahead and do a court investigation. So she will dig in there a little bit deeper, make sure that this is an appropriate case to bring forward. She'll recommend one or the other. Attend a court hearing to determine if guardianship is going to be established. At that hearing, our attorney, ourselves, the potential ward, and their legal representation are all present. And then guardianship is determined. Once we become guardian to an individual, it is for their lifetime. So think about that. That's big. So we do have them for the course of their life, unless they are restored back to competency. Sometimes it's temporary. Sometimes we do have an emergency guardianship situation. We will deal with those situations as well. We also do successorship guardianships, which I did mention a little bit earlier. A guardian may pass away. There was nobody named as a successor guardian, so somebody, in the community or probate court may call on us to take that guardianship on.
And this is actually more of a lesson. This could be actual separate seminar, just to let you know. But one thing I want to mention is like with next of kin, it is our obligation that when we do apply, become a guardian to a ward, that we establish who the next of kin is and we have their address because they are contacted by, they have to be issued the court hearing notice. It's mandated. So that's a lot of work, trying to find out family members. So if there's family members, they have to be known on our end, because sometimes there's court hearings and all of a sudden families popping up and we didn't know that there was appropriate family. And doing the work of trying to be the detective, Sherlock Holmes, is really hard. So anything on next of kin, even if they're not appropriate, you're like, oh no, I don't want this person even near this person. They still need to be notified. So important. And it's not our place to say they shouldn't know, but it's part of the court process. Like I said, that's actually part of another training. What is guardianship? So I want to just bring that up, how important it is when you have referrals to our program, that the next of kin is identified as best as possible. Oh, I'm going to say right now, brother, sister, mom, dad. Sometimes people put a close
Children.
friend or an uncle, aunt, depending on the relevancy. But anything that's going to help notify other family members, and then it is put in the paper. So that's important. You have to let people know. So because there's some people who don't have a cell phone, an address, they don't know. So that's an obligation. It's a very important obligation. And it's challenging. I'm not going to say it's easy.
Oh, the forms. Fun with forms. Here we go. The statement of expert evaluation needs to be filled out, like I said, by a physician or a licensed psychologist. It's important to note that because we get this piece of paper does not necessarily mean, like I'll have people say, well, they're incompetent, you have to take them. But it doesn't necessarily mean that that's an appropriate referral for us, even though they're deemed incompetent. To the left here, this is our referral form. We'll usually need, like we said, next of kin, financial information, demographic information.
Physician's orders,
Yeah.
anything that you can tell us about the
Diagnoses.
person.
The more information you
Specials.
give us, we have to, when we go to this hearing, we have to tell probate a story. We have to tell them all about this person. And if we're not given the information, we're not giving them enough to make a decision. So the more information you can give to us, the better off we'll be, the more successful we'll be with the guardianship. That's it. The responsibilities of our guardianship: we make life choices in the best interests of the ward with dignity and respect, like you've said. We sometimes have to make decisions to place somebody in a nursing facility, to remove them, from their home. One thing I do want to note about that is if you do have somebody in the community who, we cannot put somebody in a facility. I think all of you know, most of you probably know that, they have to meet a level of care, okay? So just because, they think that they need to be in a nursing facility, we can't put them there, unfortunately. They do have to meet that level of care. Make contact with providers and provide letters of guardianship. So this is a lot. Once we get a guardianship, we have to notify everybody. We have to notify the hospital, all of their physicians. We have to notify Social Security. We have to notify Job and Family Services. So that is us delivering a certified copy of our letter of guardianship to each of those people for every ward that we have. We regularly meet a ward monthly. That's our policy, and that is our probate's preference is once a month. I think statute is once a quarter, but we do once a month. We do that automatically, no matter what. And usually more. Most of our people we see more than once a month. We meet the probate court's annual reporting requirements, so every year you are required to file an annual report stating the person's condition, where they're living, and if the guardianship is still appropriate in your opinion, and if they're receiving adequate care. And with that is another statement of expert evaluation stating that they still cannot make decisions for themselves. So for every person that we have to file that. Guardianship program is responsible for maintaining the ward's daily living activities, making sure basic needs are met, answering, we take calls, we have to do consent to treat all the time. So we're 24/7. We have to take the calls, night and day for consents, and making medical decisions, sometimes very quickly. If in a nursing home, we attend the care plan meetings, parties or other events. Sometimes we're the only person that, they have, so we'll attend a Christmas party with them or, some kind of event. Ensure safe and adequate housing. And we also, one of our priorities when we do receive a new guardianship is getting a funeral plan immediately. It's nice to make sure that all of that is taken care of. And when they pass, we go ahead and make sure that all of that is seen through and that their wishes are met. So.
Ultimately, we're trying to give hope to people that we serve. It's hard to imagine, and I say this only because I've been there so many times as a guardian myself, where someone said to me, "Are you the daughter? Or are you? Why are you here? What? Who? I don't understand." And say, "I'm the guardian of person. I'm here to make sure this person is getting the care they need." And some people just say, "I can't believe that there's not somebody for this person," and that does happen. There's people who age out. Just so you know, it's not always a bad situation. It's because the person might have aged out. We once had a ward that was 105, and their niece passed away, and she was 87. We became the guardian, and every year we're doing the birthday party of 101, 100, 101, 102, 103, 105. So we're there for a very special reason, and it's to give hope. It's to give hope to those individuals that need a voice.
Some of them have never had anybody to even remotely give them hope. Nobody's ever asked. Nobody's ever offered. And once they know that they have somebody who's on their side, sometimes they can really flourish.
It's all about providing a better quality of life for these individuals in this program. Our hope is that we can do the things that maybe they've always wanted to do and they didn't have that opportunity. Maybe their health was it was compromised, not because they didn't care about themselves. They just needed an extra hand. They needed an extra eye. They just needed another person to be able to say, "Yes, you can do that. That's a great idea." Being a guardian is like feeling like a family member. There's no way around it. You are answering calls. You are talking to the person. You're visiting them. You are asking them what kind of sweater they want. Do they want a newspaper sent to their room? They might have a payee-ship account in the nursing home, and they have money to spend out. Well, what you need? You need socks. You need a blanket. You need little things. That's our roles, to try to give more. We bring up these bubbles here because it's all about being their voice, improving their health care, protecting them from exploitation, or it might be maybe they just need to be able to live.
And they just need one person that they can trust.
So we do have limitations in this program. We've kind of shared a little bit with you. We're going to just touch on this, and that's a bigger conversation. But sometimes the capacity of our program, we can take 100 people right now, but we don't have, there's not enough caseworkers, there's not enough court time, there's not enough attorneys. not to mention, we have to still maintain our current caseload. So we're very, very mindful of how many people we take, because we're responsible for a lot of people in their care, whether they're in a nursing home or living in the community. We still maintain that integrity of making sure the guardianship is doing its role as it's requested.
And this is also a very special role and career. So being mindful of, keeping caseloads under control, burnout's real, right? So that I am very mindful of that when I am thinking about caseload numbers.
I think you've mentioned how sometimes the statement of expert evaluation doesn't always, isn't always the solution for a person's situation. So we may be exploring least restrictive options or opportunities for those individuals. So, and that's a good thing. Imagine a person, everyone's thinking they need guardianship, and then you hear, oh wait, they might need this, and this works out. It's a wraparound program, and it works out really well for that individual. We're going to look at things, not necessarily always guardianship first. Sometimes, and I say this because it's always a big discussion, we may see people who are in the streets. We may see people who are facing very challenges with substance use, refusal for meds. Sometimes the ward's right to self-determination can be a challenge for us becoming a guardian, because we might not be able to help that person entirely. And again, we represent the courts. So if we're guardian to someone that we can't actually, I'm not saying control, but be able to guide and help and provide resources, we might not be doing our duty as a guardian. So that's a very challenging and a limitation sometimes to our program. We've been guardian to individuals where sometimes we're trying to make that connection and they don't want to live in their home. And they have voices, and we have to figure out ways of providing them the feeling of feeling safe. And that takes a lot of help from a lot of people in the community, because there might be mental health challenges and substance use disorders. There are limited funds to this program, so doing applications cost. We still have to pay the court for our application, which right now the application is $420 to submit to the courts. So I mean, those are things that we have to think about. If there are funds from that potential award, that sometimes is considered, but ultimately we are taking care of that cost. Sometimes we do meet wards or potential wards that we're not sure if our care is the best care. They might need something different. And then we're not. I think a lot of times we're getting phone calls from family members that really want more support, and we get the calls and say, "What should we do?" And we have to say, "We're not an attorney, but we can tell them, we can guide them." But that's sometimes a limitation. Like, we can't say, "Hey, this is what we think in our personal professional opinion," and but we can't do that. Really, being before an attorney is going to be in the best interest of that ward for a family member that is seeking out guardianship for their loved one. And we're wrapping it up.
Who can become a volunteer guardian? So we'll touch on this before we go. Somebody who's self-motivated and compassionate. Training and or experience in maybe working with the elderly or being a caregiver is very helpful. Your time and ability to commit. One nice thing is it's not a huge physical job, so it is really nice for people who may have some physical limitations. It's something that they may be able to contribute to. Current resident of Ashtabula County. We have our application for volunteer guardianship, and you would go ahead and fill out the application and submit 3 references, personal references, professional references, whichever. Pass and consent to background check and drug test. And the 6-hour guardianship training that the Ohio Supreme Court offers is mandatory. It's online. It's very informative and is not cumbersome at all.
And it's mandatory for anybody.
Yes, mandatory for anybody. So if you are thinking about being a volunteer guardian, those would be the steps that you would need to take. Once you are a volunteer guardian, you'd complete the guardianship training and of course, do the 6-hour training. You would meet your potential ward. Typically, with the volunteer guardians, it's somebody in a nursing facility. Those severe and persistently mentally ill and those that live in the community, typically our full-time staff will take on. Then the guardianship application will begin. Once you're a guardian, you do a monthly visit with your ward and attend their care plan meeting if they are in a nursing facility. Of course, now you're the eyes and ears, right? So, you're going to make sure that this person is well taken care of in whatever situation that they are in. Monthly reporting to the program. So, whenever you visit your ward, write a brief description of your visit, and then that's submitted to me on a monthly basis. And you are responsible for doing the annual guardian report, which I will gladly assist you with and walk you through. So no stress there. We also assist with getting the expert evaluation every year too. There's a lot of program support. If you're a volunteer through us, you can call me absolutely anytime with any question. I'm always willing to answer any questions. There's no cost to be a volunteer either. You have to be a resident of Ashtabula County. So if you are thinking about becoming a volunteer guardian, I do have applications up here. If you want to see me after our training, just let me know. Mom, what was your question you asked? Yeah, what question did you ask?
Do you remember?
We asked if a family member wants to become a guardian, they need to go through the
Oh, there you go. We answered it. Okay. I was just making sure that that question was answered. Yes. Jennifer?
So you mentioned about you just have to have time to commit. So you go through all the training, what does that time commitment look like on an average per month?
You're
As a volunteer.
monthly 1-hour visit to see your ward. You're also, if you get calls for consent to treat, anything like that, that's usually a phone call. And then if you ever have questions or anything like that, it would just be the time in communicating with me and submitting your monthly note to me. It's nothing lengthy. It's, just a basic rundown of the visit, how the ward's doing, any changes.
in their annual reports.
And if there's something that's like really high level or something that's going on with your ward, we are
We're
there.
here. Yeah.
This is not go it alone and you have to figure it out. There may be some decisions that you need additional support on, or you just need to run it past. Our role is not to let you be guardian and not have any support. So if you know someone or if yourself, you're interested, just know that this is you're part of a program that's all about caring for someone's everyday living, and the support is there through our program. So you're not going it alone. So if you do know someone that's interested, it's always best to call us, see what it's all about. I mean, the one thing that we don't do is make you become a guardian until you're ready. So visiting people is really important. Having experience and watching us do what we do helps with, oh, this is what it's all about. Another question I used to get is, do I get to pick where I want to go? I live in Jefferson. could I be guardian to someone who's in Jefferson Healthcare? I'm just using that as an example. That would be a good example if we have a referral to the program and say, you know what, we have someone, so-and-so could fit here. You know, so we don't make you go places that you can't. We look at your fit too. So it's a combination of being part of a team and serving someone in need, and also looking at how it fits within your life too. So, and also having the support from our program.
Yes. Good.